All right, guys, we made it. It's the best time of the year, and we have, once again, the Nuggets and the Wolves. You know, the last 2 years, I picked against the Wolves in round one, felt very stupid about it about 5 minutes into game one of each of those series, and this time around, I really didn't want to do it again. And then they got the one matchup where I'm like, oh crap, I might have to do it again. So, to beat the Nuggets the last 2 years, you have needed the number one defense in the league, OKC, and then of course the Wolves 2 years ago. Databaller has the Wolves fourth in defense for the year, and they have had stretches where the defensive intensity is there, other times where it kind of slips, and then we get quotes in the locker room about how we got to play harder and stuff. And so the first question really is just the defensive intensity, and I'm really looking at Jaden to establish this with him guarding Murray. I don't know if we could ask him to pick him up full court the whole time, but step one for me is just Jaden make Murray's life as difficult as you possibly can, fighting around every DHO action with Jokic, any screen he runs with Gordon or whatever. Of course, Gordon needs to be healthy. I'm not going to say that the whole video. You know that. Peyton Watson, Spencer Jones, we'll see. Jaden and Ant are ready to go. If Ant is switched onto Murray, I mean, of course, Ant's got a lot of responsibility on the other end, but just pressure the ball as much as you can. Would be nice to still have Nikhil. So that's step one. Then we get to the matchup stuff, where I'm going to do my Gobert-Jokic spiel now. So in the last matchup they had in the regular season, Gobert was on Jokic for every minute that they lined up together. And this is, of course, different than a couple years ago where they more so preferred to have Cat on Jokic and Gobert helping off of Aaron Gordon. Besides that one game where Jokic scored on Gobert in the post a million times. And there's a lot of things that come out of this, right? If they decide to go with this, they can always move Gobert onto Gordon. They could try to put him on Christian Brown and play off of him. Should be said the Spurs did this recently in a game that mattered, not the one at the end of the season. Brown made 5 threes, but you're going to dare him from outside. It does mean that Randall has to go on to Jokic, and if you just don't trust Randall to handle that as much, then okay, it's going to be more so Gobert. But of course, when Gobert's out, it'll be some of Nas and Randall. But anyway, with Gobert on Jokic, I guess the first question I have is, will Jokic just go into tunnel vision score mode? Because we know he can do that on Gobert, but it makes their offense more predictable. It's tiring to just back your guy down possession after possession. We'll just see if he has stretches of these games where he's just like, all right, for the next 3 minutes, I'm just going to back Gobert down every single time, right? But the other side of this is it does allow Gobert to protect the basket versus any two-man action that Jokic runs. Whether it's Murray a lot of the time, or Cam Johnson, or Christian Brown, whoever, if it's those guys having to go at Gobert dropping on a screen, with then Jaden or Ant or Dante or Io behind them, we know Murray can make his pull-up twos. We also know that he can try to force Gobert to switch on to him by backing it back out, but you might take too much time off the clock, which once again goes back to Jaden established the defensive intensity. I imagine we're going to see some Jokic pick and pops out of this. Once again, yes, Gobert can guard outside of the paint. He can close out to Jokic from three. It's just that is a lot of ground you're asking one guy to cover. And so maybe somebody else has to close out to Jokic, but then at that point, now we have bodies scrambling all over the place versus this Nuggets offense. They're probably going to get a good shot. But if the Wolves' intensity is going to be what it was a couple years ago, those closeouts are a lot faster than they are for other teams. Jokic is also going to take some mid-rangers where he gets a little pocket pass from Murray or whoever as Gobert drops back. But yeah, what ends up mattering more? The fact that Jokic has had a lot of success versus Gobert in 1v1s, or is it nobody else can score on Gobert when they run an action with Jokic because it's Gobert waiting for them at the basket, right? Now, if they decide to put Gobert on Gordon, then the whole thing changes, and then more so the conversations become Gordon bringing the ball up more. I mean, he's going to do some of this anyway, of course. Gordon making his threes, where he's definitely gotten better from three, no doubt. And we saw against the Spurs in that game, potentially game of the year, the Nuggets would sometimes have Gordon screen for Jokic just to make Wemby have to get around a screen a little bit. They could do a similar thing against Gobert. Again, we will see where Gobert is defensively. But since they did the Cat for Dante and Randall thing, it's just been more of Gobert on Jokic. Not a guarantee we see that. And then back to Jokic working against Gobert in 1v1s and how much help are the Wolves going to bring there. The Wolves have given up the second least amount of three-point attempts this year and the third least amount of corner threes. So they're better than most teams at bringing extra attention but not getting cooked on threes, especially corner threes. But I think Jokic and Murray will force more of that out of them. And so does Randall get back to Gordon on the three if that's the matchup? Or does Ant close out well enough to Christian Brown? Or do they just say, Christian Brown, go for it? They're definitely going to tell Spencer Jones go ahead. And I know he had the hamstring thing at the tail end of the season, but the wording around him and Peyton Watson, it feels like there's a good chance we're going to see both of them. And then I also wonder if Gobert being stuck on Jokic on the three-point line or in the mid-range but not in the paint, if that allows them to open up more backdoor cuts. Again, so much of this just comes back to Can the Wolves just have that defensive intensity and communication that made the Nuggets kind of freak out at parts of that last series? I know it still went 7. They needed the big comeback in Game 7, but what they did defensively and what they were defensively that season, right now, like, they're going to be really good. They're still going to guard the Nuggets better than most teams can, maybe better than anybody besides how OKC can. But can they get back to what it was a couple years ago? I don't know if they can. And then on the other end, who's up for another conversation of Anthony Edwards' playmaking in a playoff series? Look, the first question I've got is, what is Ant going to find that he's most comfortable with attacking in this series? Is it putting Jokic in pick and roll actions, where I'm assuming the Nuggets are going to try to have Jokic at the level of the screen? They're going to have Gordon and Cam Johnson or Christian Brown or however it lines up as the low men around the basket. Then that immediately becomes, okay, well, it's Rudy Gobert on the roll, and how much does Ant want to throw him the ball? How much does Io or Dante or whoever want to throw Gobert the ball? Can he make the Nuggets pay enough? We know what it looks like for Gobert offensively in the playoffs. Could it be Ant just deciding, you know what, Christian Brown just can't guard me one-on-one. I'm just going to go at him in simple plays. Is it going to be trying to get the Murray switch? Maybe it's the Cam Johnson switch. Ant is going to find something that he's really comfortable with in the series. My perfect version of the Wolves offense features a little bit more of Ant attacking off the catch or just shooting off the catch, but it just doesn't seem to happen as much as I want it to. But look, the Nuggets, they ended up 21st in defensive rating for the season. It started out really, really good in the beginning of the year. They also had a really soft schedule in the beginning of the year, and injuries, lack of focus, not getting back in transition defense, Jokic and Murray, looking at them for that stuff. All that's going to be huge here. I mean, I'm thinking about Io and the way that he can push and transition for them and the way that he can just drive off of any random situation, like just attacking off the catch. Like, he just gets to the rim more than your average role player. And as far as Randall, I mean, I would guess that Gordon is on Randall. The Nuggets have done like some Gordon on the center and Jokic on a non-shooter type stuff, but the Wolves just don't really have an obvious guy for Jokic to play off of, so I'm guessing Jokic is on Gobert. Pretty normal stuff. But look, if Randall's going to be doing 1v1s versus Gordon, just doing his Julius Randle with the meme of him just like bashing into a door, well, it's not him, but you know what I mean. My gut reaction says Gordon's probably going to have the advantage there. I mean, Randall could make some, don't get me wrong, but the ball's got to be zipping around for the Wolves, and that once again goes back to the Ant playmaking stuff, making the initial skip pass or the initial swing pass that opens it all up, because the Nuggets are going to load up one side of the floor against Ant, of course. And then between Jaden, Dante, Io, and Nas, who I've taken too long to mention in this video, one of these guys is going to have to put the Nuggets in hell, where like we can't guard Dante's relocations, or we can't guard Nas Reed pick and pops, or Jaden is killing us off of just catch and drive opportunities where we help off of him maybe a little too aggressively to load up on Ant. I mean, one of the games that they had this year, that's exactly what happened with Jaden. Like, he made so many plays where he would be taking like Jamal Murray or Cam Johnson off the dribble and then making something happen like around the free throw line. As far as random bench stuff, again, I mentioned Io. Like, Io, I want Io to come in the game and just immediately just push every time. Like, put so much pressure on the Nuggets' transition defense. Valanciunas, if he's out there, they're going to put him in screen actions every single time. Hardaway is going to shoot a lot of shots in this series. Some games he's going to go 2 for 9. Other games he's going to go 7 for 9. Bones Highland is going to try to be a gunslinger. Peyton Watson, who I probably should have talked about more. I mean, he of course had that great scoring stretch when they needed it earlier in the season. We just saw him against the Mavs score 21 like a week and a half ago, whatever it was, where like he's taking Cooper in 1v1s, or he's running the action with Jokic, less so getting the shot that was created from the action, but somebody else with Jokic. You know what I mean? I mean, if he's really healthy and if he's really putting pressure on the Wolves and we know what he does defensively for them, like there's a world in which Peyton Watson ends up being, I guess, the 4th most important player for them in the series. You assume the top 3 is Jokic, Murray, Gordon always. Some of this, of course, comes down to how well are Brown and Cam Johnson shooting. Cam Johnson, we'll see. Like, MPJ had a better season than him, no doubt, but the hope here is just consistency rather than the whirlwind that was MPJ. Anyway, Nuggets in 7. That's the most respectful that I can be to the Wolves. Look, I really don't feel proud about picking against this team to lose for the 3rd straight year. The first 2 were really dumb. I do think the Nuggets are a different thing. Both of these teams have had just weird regular seasons, injuries or just not playing hard enough or not being locked in enough, whatever it is. But I think it's going to be really good.